her doctors were phenomenal. We were a family who we didn't have any health, issues. We didn't have any health background. We didn't hang around with doctors and know what was going on. So for us to be able to talk to someone, I remember her oncologist drew a graph out. She drew it by hand on a napkin. She was explaining something to us, and she drew it out, and my daughter was in the bed, and she leaned up to look, and I saw her starting to nod and ask questions, and I was like, whoa. So they broke it down so that she could understand and that she was part of it. And I remember at first she wouldn't speak. She was really shy, like she's being right now. And so they would come into the room and I would automatically start answering their questions. And so her oncologist was like, hold on, I'm going to ask some questions and I want Michaela to answer. And so they just kept pressing and pressing until she started talking to them. And so we were really happy that they took that time and took those extra steps to make sure she understood what her treatment plan was. She understood this is not a death sentence. We've got a plan for you. And that really made a difference to us. The one thing I always say about the hospital is that I felt like everybody in that building cared about us. So I always tell this one story. It makes me cry, so I'm gonna try to tell it and not cry. So this just kind of sums up the experience that we had there. Michaela was in ICU, and at this point we knew what her diagnosis was, and we knew the long road that we had ahead of us. And she had been moved from the ICU to a regular hospital room. And there was this lady, and I don't know her name. It was a little petite lady, and she had always come in to clean the room. And she would wave through the window sometimes, and she'd come in and she would be working and she'd be going really fast, and really her face was like a blur during those days because there were so many people coming in and out and checking equipment and things like that. So we really didn't tune in because we were so worried and just kind of consumed with what was going on. But they just moved Michaela, and I was there in the room to gather up the last few bits of her things. And this woman comes in. I was sitting on the bed because I was just overwhelmed, because you feel like, okay, you got her through the ICU and it's still not over. Like there's still so many things that could go wrong. And she came into the room, and I was sitting on the bed, and she said, "Where's our girl?" And I said, "Oh, they moved her out of ICU. Now she's going to a regular wing of the hospital." And she was like, "Oh, that is so great. That's just awesome." And in that moment, when I've got so much more that we've got to worry about, she reminded me that we had so much to celebrate. And she reminded me that there are so many people whose names I didn't know who were pulling for us. And somebody who would come in and literally clean the toilets for your child, that she would take the time to realize that something was going on with their family, and she didn't know what it was. She didn't know what we were going through. But she took the time to say, "This is great. This is awesome. I'm rooting for you. I'm cheering for you." It really, really made a difference for us. You expect your doctors to care about you and have a good bedside manner. You expect nurses to care about you and care about your child and make sure that they have everything to be comfortable. But when everybody's rooting for you and everybody's trying to make your stay comfortable, from the people who change the sheets on the bed to the doctors, it really makes you feel at home. And you need that sort of care because, she's the one sick, but we're suffering too. And if we're not strong, because there are so many days I was in that hospital room and I was putting on a good face because I didn't want her to know how worried I was. And for people to come in and just say, "Hey, Mom, you're doing great. You're a great mom." I needed that. My husband needed that, and so we're just so happy that we chose the right place. We didn't know that it was the right place when we chose it, but when we were there, we were like, so many days, we chose the right place. I'm so happy.